Don't touch women share to be bold and take risks. Don't touch women say what they feel and be what they say. Don't touch, believe in your power, so much power. Yeah. Don't touch the women share, women share. Hey, everybody. Yours truly, Takara Nicole, coming at you. It is indeed another Saturday. We are all in the building. It's been a minute, but we're all here. So excited. Welcome to Vault Talks Women Share. Thank you so much for tuning in. There's 1,000,005 things you guys can be doing this weekend, especially because it's Father's Day weekend. And we're excited that you're kicking off your Saturday morning with us. For those of you who are watching us on the replay or the live watch, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We appreciate our amazing followers. And so you guys are in for an amazing show. And so if you don't know, now you know. Vault Talks was originally a radio show that was created out of Chicago, and we have turned it into the virtual experience. And we have been at it since April 27th. We are on fire, and we are so excited to be here. So Vault Talks is indeed a platform where women can come together and learn more, to share more about matters which pertain to their world. Indeed, this is a platform where you'll learn about entrepreneurship, ways to be empowered as women, sisterhood, dating, relationships, all that amazing stuff right here on this platform, because we are indeed empowered for purpose, on purpose, and to bring change. But June is all about the men. So since we founded this show, we always dedicate June for the men. So we are excited. We have been having some phenomenal, epic, life-changing, dedicated men to the platform. And today wouldn't be any other than that. So our special guest for today, we have, and I'm so thankful, these are my brothers. One of them from Chicago, Billy Montgomery. So we're excited for him to be on the platform a little bit later. And then my dear brother, all the way from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, we got Brian Street coming to us. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about a couple different things. As you all know, tomorrow is Father's Day, so we want to make sure that we're honoring the men in a huge way. So with everything going on in America today, we're going to talk about and get these men's brains rolling and hearing their perspectives on what it's like to be a Black father in America right now. And so they'll be on the platform a little bit later. But if you don't know, now you know. It's quiet, it's quote time with Isha the influencer. Go ahead and take us in, Ish.
All right. So today's quote, of course, goes with the theme of the show, which is about fatherhood. And I'm not going to say any more about it. I'm just going to tell y'all what it is. So the quote is, "Staying is only half the battle." Let me say it one more time. Staying is only half the battle. And I'm going to let you ladies kind of dig in first to see where your minds go with this quote. So who want to take it? Liz, like you want to dive in.
Go ahead and dive on in.
Okay. So, girl, you making me ponder. Hold on. Staying. You really stumped me on this one, because honestly, given like what's going on in America right now, you have to stay the course in order to see the results that you want to see.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't and give up too early, or you think, oh, I'm gonna throw in the towel now, then what was the purpose? Because what I'm understanding now is that you have to go through, stay the course, go through actual in order to get to, the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's really staying. It's just so many different ways, so many different concepts. So I'm gonna finish with what I'm going with that one concept. Literally, you have to stay the course. You have to stay on point. You have to stay with your mindset has to be in a place of, no, we're gonna win. We need results. We're gonna do this. We're gonna fight no matter what the fight is. And most of the fight, a majority of the fight, 80%, I think, is the fight is all in your head.
Right.
So you really need to just continue on, just stay the course, keep going, keep pushing towards, what's uncomfortable, because what makes you comfortable is exactly what's going to bring out the results that you're actually wanting or didn't even know existed. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Liz. Yeah, that was real good. That was real good. Anybody else want to jump in?
Immediately, I think about my dad, and I a lot of people know, some people don't know, I am my mother's only child. On my dad's side, I'm the fourth out of 22. So when I think of this quote, staying is half the battle, I think about how he lost the battle because he didn't even stay around to see what his kids would, who they are, what we're doing. 22 kids is a lot of kids, right? And he's incarcerated for the rest of his life. And so, it came with a lot of trials and tribulations and just understanding who we were as individuals without him. And then balancing our life around his actions, because actions create reactions, right? Especially when people are close and near and dear to you. And when you talk about your father, that's a whole nother level of emotions. And so being able to accept this was his life, this was his decision. It has nothing to do with who I am as an individual, has nothing to do with who my brother is, and da-da-da. But at the other side of that, it does, because he rolls through our bodies because we have his DNA in us. So, it's kind of like we have to define our own individuality based on who we are, and not to allow the fact that he gave up the battle of being a father, and not to internalize that and feel like, well, we weren't enough for him, or all these thoughts that can come in your head when your dad's not present. And then, playing the blame game, well, daddy wasn't here, so and so using that as a crutch and an excuse because daddy wasn't around. And so it's a lot of different emotions and feelings that you really have to deal with when your father isn't present. And so, this quote really speaks near and dear to my heart, because it's work. It's real work to not be mad at him, and not to fault him, and not to blame him for choosing to exit stage right on us and choose the streets, lust, women, everything that he chose over raising his kids. And so when I think about staying is only half the battle, some men say, well, I'm present, so boom, that's enough. And it's not. You need to be present and active in order for your kids to really understand, that love and that nurturing that can only come from a father. And so, I love this quote for so many reasons that I can go on and on and on, but I won't. But what I love about it is that staying is half the battle. So there's another half of, that battle. What does that look like? And for everybody, who, I think of it like this: everybody's half can look differently. And so, and for us to understand at the end of the day, no matter if daddy is present or isn't present, we have a life to live on our own, period. And so there's still those unique qualities and things that we have within us that need to be birthed out for us to own who we fully are. Here comes the identity coach coming out, but the whole identity blueprint, even knowing that a part of his DNA is in you, right? But that doesn't mean that you're going to turn out like him, because you have the power to decide. We use the power of making a decision every day. So you're going to make that decision to, okay, woe is me, or you're going to make the decision and be like, no, I'm going to be better than him because I can do that. And so, no, I have tons of mixed emotions around that, but I'll stop right there.
Yeah, you were definitely going along the lines of my train of thought when I came up with this quote. And this quote can be for a lot of different things, but as it pertains to fatherhood, especially in the Black community, this is what I think about. Because, like you said, some men think like, okay, I stayed, that's enough. But it's what you do while you're there that really matters. Okay, you stay, yeah, that's good, but it's just like, what are you doing? Because what you do still determines how your child turns out. So you could be raising them and pouring, what they need, the essentials that they need to grow up to be the man or the woman that they're supposed to be. Like you said, there are
Right.
certain things that only a father can give their child.
Right.
But, you're setting an example every day, whether you know it, whether you want to or not. And so when you are present, we're watching. The
Right.
children are watching, they soak up everything. And when you're not there, we're left to wonder and think of why you're not there, what it'll be like if you were here.
Yeah.
Is it my fault? All of those things come into play.
Yeah.
So, fatherhood, parenthood in general is a big responsibility. And I don't think we kind of really stop and think about it. We're on our day to day going to work, and I feel like some people feel like, okay, I fed you and that's enough. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I go to work and that's enough, but it's not, because you have a whole mind that you are in control of molding and shaping.
Right.
So, that's a big responsibility.
Huge.
But in our community, it's just like we think we have an option. And
Right.
I know it goes back to, slave days when the man was taken out of the home, and it trickled down throughout the generations. And it's feel like, okay, we're not used to seeing him there.
Right.
So I didn't see my dad. So I feel like, okay, if I have kids, I have an option whether to stay or not. We have that broken family type of thing within our culture, within our community. So, when they do stay, oh, I stayed, but that's only
Ooh-wee.
half of it.
Right.
That's only half. So we have to, I know we have a lot of things that come up against us, especially Black men, Black fathers, where they might not have been taught, they might not have had their dad in their life, and a lot of people choose to do differently,
That's
but
good.
they still don't know how or what to give a child because they've never been given that or taught.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
good.
points. Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Tanisha, what you got?
Mhm.
What I get for this is saying it's only half of the battle. When it comes to my father, I thank God I had a strong father. I had a father that never gave up. Even though half of my childhood, him and my mom separated, they wasn't together. They was together for 13 years. Never married, but common law, they was married.
Mm.
At the age of 8, they separated. I remember being 10 and 13, even though I went through a lot, my father always been there. And he always showed me what a man should look like when I'm looking for a guy in my life. Even though growing up with trials and tribulations, we tend to date the opposite. Even though they say you should date what your father looked like when he shows you when he a real man and what he should take care of you, how he should cater to you. But when it says staying is half the battle, to me, standing is the first choice. You gotta want to stay and you gotta
Mhm.
want to fight the battle.
Yeah.
You gotta want to jump hurdles and
Exactly.
over whatever hoops and hurdles you gotta jump over. And that's what I love about my father because no matter what the situation looked like, he always made his purpose and his point to be there no matter what. Whatever I needed, whatever my sister needed, he was there. He fought, he worked, he never gave up. So I thank God for that. And it's like for me to look at the opposite of being around my cousins or my friends and not having the father figure for their kids, it really showed me in the same way how I should be as a parent. Because you see so
Wow.
much going on and you
Yeah.
see the kids hurting and you see that they're not giving the communication time, they're not giving personal time, they're not giving hugs and
Mhm.
affection.
Yeah.
And us as Americans, Black Americans, we suffer from that. Our kids are suffering. Some of them are suffering. I'm not gonna say all, but some of them suffering. And this is why it comes with the mentality of how they think and how they perceive stuff because they see what you do. So
Right.
if you're not showing a good example, your kid's gonna be affected by it.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
woman can be affected by it because she's depressed. She don't know what to do. Yes, we have
Yes.
some single mothers. Don't get me wrong, but they shouldn't have to do it by themselves. They didn't have this baby by themselves.
Right.
It
Yeah.
takes two, not one. And I just feel like people need to wake up. They need to realize
Ooh-wee.
it's not just me. It's we. It doesn't even matter if you're married or not. You didn't have this baby
Mhm.
by yourself. It's teamwork. And I thank God that my parents was able to co-parent, even though they end up separating. But I really can't say I had a bad childhood because I don't know what that looked like when it comes to parents. I had some trials and tribulation and trauma, but that wasn't one of my traumas. Even
Yeah.
though I didn't like the fact that they were separated. Who don't want their parents to stay together forever?
Yeah.
All kids do.
Right.
So
Mhm.
we just gotta stay prayed up and keep our young men motivated. I mean, a woman cannot teach her son everything that a man
Nope.
be or what look like. We can give examples, but
Right.
the man should be present. You should want to be present and happy to be present to show them how to be a man, but
Yeah.
not just be a man. Be the right man
Right.
that we need in America for our nation. You know, so
Yeah.
that's how I think of when I say that.
Wow.
That's strong. That's a strong quote. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, man, Tanisha, what I love about this platform is that we can all come aside one another and then just get like so fired up and ignited. And something you said really,
Bless you.
That's good.
thank you, really empowered me because I had to think about it. You hear a lot of people say, well, I'm here, I'm present, I'm staying. So what does that show you or show the child that you're just staying? And I don't think that sometimes parents realize that kids are super smart.
Mhm.
And they pick up on emotions and feelings and all that. And so, the fact that you're just staying, you don't think that a child understands that in some shape, form, fashion?
Mhm.
Do. And so, like for me, one of the things that and I can openly admit this, is that my dad has younger kids. And for a moment, I got jealous because they actually were able to spend time with him in the house. And then the flip kind of, happened in my mind. And I was like, no, these kids are seeing him on drugs. They're seeing him in and out of prison. I didn't see that. I heard about it, but I didn't see it.
You
So
were sheltered.
seeing it, right. So seeing it and being involved in the day-to-day of it was a whole different ball game. And so what I realized was that God literally, and I was just talking about this the other day, God literally protected me for some things. He used my dad to get me here and then said, no, I'm going to surround you with men-like figures to help raise you, because my dad didn't have that mindset to raise me, nor did he have the desire. And he would argue differently. But if you chose the streets, lust, drugs, women over raising your kids, point taken. I know what your decision was. And, because I know the power of a decision. You all know the power of a decision. It's either you're going to go left, you're going to go right. You're going to go straight, you're going to go backward. It's just you putting all your energy into making the decision that you desire to do. And so
Mhm.
I had to get over the fact that he didn't want to be a dad. He didn't want to be a father. And so it's okay because God surrounded me with other people. Now, that's not everybody's story, and I get that. And so I'm very sensitive and very mindful to that. However, when we talk about staying is half the battle, I really want people to be mindful of, if just because you're present in the home and you interact with the child and y'all have family-like activities together, doesn't mean that you're present. Let's be clear. Just because you take your daughter to daughter daddy dances and all that good stuff doesn't mean you're present if you aren't connected to the woman that birthed the children, because kids feel all that. They know, like, you're just here to be here. And so I think sometimes fathers think, well, I'm here, I'm present. Kids need more than that. They need to know that they're loved outside of the actions and the emotions, or the emotions of doing things together as a family, because later on they grow up. And then they're questioning the things that they went through, and then they're around other environments, and then they're comparing the environment of their childhood to the environments that they're currently around. So then all these questions and emotions and these feelings go back to, well, what was my childhood really like? And so if you're not putting that foot forward to really be able to create that environment, now there's going to be questions later. And what I love is that I love co-parenting. If there's a divorce that's taking place and you guys can effectively co-parent, kids can kids have that ability to really thrive when they just know this one thing, that they're loved. You know, that's the mold that keeps a child's mind in place, knowing that they're loved and they are nurtured and things of that nature, and the attention that they get. I used to work for the Illinois Department of Child and Family Services, and I wasn't connected, but I heard a lot of different stories. And a lot of teenagers come into care, and nobody wants to take teenagers into their homes because teenagers are rambunctious and they're outspoken. But the thing is that when they're nurtured and they feel loved, it's a whole new ball game. And so, people are like, oh, I don't want to take teenagers into my home because they're not mine. All you have to do is show them love, because they act out because they don't feel that love. And so, I'm not a mother, so let me put that disclaimer out. I love other people's kids. I'm a godmother, I'm a niece. I'm an aunt. I love everybody else's kids. I love the ones that I can love on and give back. But what I do know is that kids can feel your energy. And so, I really want some of these parents out here to understand, if you're in a situation where you're just staying just for the sake of the kids and it's not a healthy environment, they feel all of that.
I want to pick back on what you said. When the parent is there, they're there. They feel like because they're there, okay, it's okay. It's not okay. Let's piggyback on that. You're there, but what example are you showing? Are you showing them any type of attention? Are you arguing? Are you fighting with the parent, with the mother, the child? Kids see everything, and it affects teenagers even worse. Bless you, sis. But you have to think about the little kids, and this is where parents mess up at. When you're arguing from the little kids, like say from the age from 1 to 5, they see everything that you do. They're going to act out everything you do. So if you're being emotional and you're being disrespectful to the mother and calling her out her name, or vice versa, because you have some mothers that's just disrespectful because they can't get what they want and they just mad because they don't know what to do with themselves, so they take it out on the father. Not saying that the father is a bad father, but if you hear the mother calling him out his name and disrespecting him, and the child sitting there and listen to you, you're talking to the child saying, oh, your father wasn't worth nothing, he ain't nothing, he this, he that. They're going to assume that, oh, my daddy ain't nothing, because they don't know no better. They going by what they hear you say. That's why they say it's power in the tongue. There's life and death in the tongue, because what you say out your mouth. That's why you have to be careful what you say out your mouth. And when you have kids, it's not about you, it's about the kids. So if you're not living an example and you're just being bitter and just mean all the time and aggressive and stressed out, depressed, and you're reacting out, this is why it's so important. And I'm not saying it because I'm one of the leaders in ministry. I'm saying because it's necessary. This is why we have to pray. This is why we have to get one accord with God. This is why we have to put God in everything we do. This is why we have to teach our children the Bible in the step, because in life, the Bible is the guideline to everything that we do in life. And if we teach our kids and we train them up the way they should go and teach them the way the Bible said we should live, not saying that, okay, some people are not Christians. I understand that. Some people are atheists. Okay, but you got to know it wasn't man that made you. Man did not give you life. So you had a somewhat of a God, whatever you believe in. It doesn't even matter what you believe in, because I know a lot of people look at things in different ways and have different beliefs. But what I'm saying is, in your heart, it's not you, it's not man, it's someone above all. And we know God. Stop being ignorant and understand there is a God in this world, Jesus Christ, Lord, Savior, however you want to say it, how you feel comfortable. Hey, you have to teach your kids right from wrong, even when they're not acting right. You still have to sit down and find a way to communicate with the kids, because whatever they see and whatever we do is going to affect them later on in life. So it's really important. It's very important. People don't have the patience these days. If you don't have the patience, then please don't have kids. And I'm
Ooh,
not
Right.
being funny. I might be stepping on some toes, but the truth is the truth. If
yeah,
you don't, you have to have patience for kids. It's not about you; it's about them. And when
yeah,
their life is involved, you
yeah,
are responsible as by the law say to the 18 years old. To me, I'm responsible for my kids to the day they die.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not gonna never give up
Right.
on my kids. I'm not just gonna
Right.
throw them in the woods and just like lead them there. Yes, I'm gonna guide them. I'm gonna teach them, but I'm not gonna just push them out. Like most parents, I understand you got that tough love. I have tough love to a certain extent. Because when you give
Mm-hmm.
birth to a child, that's everything. That's a mind blowing thing. You like,
Mhm.
oh my God, Jesus! I just gave birth to my first child. And as for me, I thought I couldn't have kids. Look what
Mhm.
I went through. I went through two stillborns and two miscarriages before I even had my first child. I had my first
Wow.
child at 27 years old. Never thought I could have kids. Went through so much. I was about to give up because I'm like, I just want to leave something behind to say, oh, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
But kids are not for everybody, and I can
yeah,
understand that. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna have kids and you know you was with that female and you know you was with that lady, man up, man up. And if you don't want to man
Mhm.
up, sign over your rights so somebody else can get this child.
ooh,
Not being
Right.
sensitive because there's stuff in position to help us, but
yeah,
we don't take it.
yeah,
We overlook it, and
right,
we gotta stop being ignorant. And when you can learn to stop being ignorant and stand your ground and understand your responsibility, it
yeah,
can be a better life for you and your kids.
right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I think a lot of parents are blind to the fact of how what they do affect their children, even though they grow up to be adults and they realize they have all these issues. We don't even realize it stems from our childhood.
Come
So
on.
we carry that on and it's a cycle. So
Yeah,
we do everything that our parents did to us to
yeah,
our children.
Mhm.
And you still struggle within yourself, but you're portraying everything that happened to you to your kids, and it's just it's a cycle. It's like generational, and it's going to keep happening until you realize like this what you've been through affected you mentally. And in our community we don't pay attention to mental health as much as we should.
that's good.
So you know, just realizing the cause and effect of certain things, because
Mhm.
we grew up in a household where it was just your mom and she's yelling and cussing and fussing and whooping on you and all that all the time. You have kids, you find yourself doing the same thing. There's no patience, there's no relationship, there's no communication, there's no time and attention, and you just expect your child to go along and get along. But when they
Right.
become adults, you got a whole nother issue on your hand. Because
Mhm.
like Tanisha said, your child is your responsibility to the day that they die, whether you want to push them out, it's like, okay, I done my 18 years. And some parents do think that way.
Yeah,
But, that child is going to come home, regardless of whether it was broken or not, because
Mhm.
that's what they know. You are their mother. There's that attachment from birth. So, they go out into the world and they're not equipped, they're not prepared for what's waiting on them. They come back and you don't have anything to give them. So it's just like we have to work on ourselves, even as adults, even as parents, in order to fix us so that we can help our children.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's
I think
good.
it's a never ending process. No matter what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, you're always learning something new. There's never a point where you should be like, oh, I'm complete. No, you're constantly going into revision. You're constantly thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, how can I better myself? How can I better the situation? How can I help him along the way or her along the way? What can I provide to my child in order for their life to be better than
That's
mine
good.
was
Mm-hmm.
at that age or
Right.
at that time or whatever the case may be. And yeah, and it takes a lot of communication on different levels because
Mm-hmm.
a 5-year-old is not going to understand what a 16-year-old understands. Okay. It's not in the same, it's not on the same playing field on that end. And so you do have to kind of like come down to their level and say, break it down in simple terms. And I think that the simpler you can get things out of a conversation, the simplest way, the keeping it simple way, will really just is honestly that connects with people with adults as well,
Right.
because sometimes they make things so complicated. We make things so extra complicated that, I had someone who told me, I work better when it's complicated. How do you work better when it's complicated? I'm gonna need you to take that back and and keep it kissed. Okay, keep it simple. Simply keep it simple. I'm not gonna call them. I'm not gonna say the other part, but
the other S word, yeah.
Okay? Because at the end of the day, the simpler it is, the better it translates to that child.
Absolutely.
Regardless, and that's saying back to your quote, staying.
Yeah.
You're staying, but yet you're not communicating. You're staying, but yet you're not engaging.
Come on.
That's a big thing as well. You're staying, or when you have one, it's like double dutch. You got one foot in, but you don't want to jump the whole body in. It's like, come on, like I don't know if I want to get in there yet. You can't do that.
You can't do that. And you said something very key. So what a lot of people don't know is that one of my streams is I'm a writing coach, and so I have a co-author book project going on, and so excited about it. It'll be coming out later this year, but I'm not gonna give the name away. But it's a bunch of women coming together talking about their lives without their dads, and the stories that are being submitted will blow your mind, because a lot of people automatically think that when you hear a fatherless daughter, you think daddy wasn't in the home. Some of these daddies were sitting right on the couch. These daughters are talking about how they felt and the emotions that they went through because there was the lack of communication and the lack of engagement. And it's mind-blowing. Some of them, it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because this book is so phenomenal. I cannot wait till it drops. When the idea was even planted in my head, all I thought about was, the normal, the typical, when you hear about a fatherless daughter, you automatically think that they are out of the home. Not the case. These women are sharing their stories of how daddy was an alcoholic. He was present, but not available. And so, when you talk about staying is only half the battle, are they available for the conversations that kids need daddy for? Are they available for the engagements that only daddy can provide? There's so much. There's only so much a woman can do. And I go back to, thank you, Tanisha, reminding us about Bible, Adam and Eve. Okay, helpmates. So when you think about kids, mother and father should help one another. So even if daddy isn't in the home, there's a way to co-parent effectively, as long as effective communication is there. You ain't got to like your ex-wife, but you gotta respect her. You ain't gotta like your ex-husband, but you gotta respect him for the sake of your child, because they feel all that energy. And I think a lot of times people are so ignorant to the fact that I just want to get, I'm the man, I want to get, I want the divorce, woo, and they just think about themselves and forget about their kids. It happens a lot. And so, even just that being some of the stories of the women, like, my dad left the home because, mom didn't want to be with him or whatever. And it's bigger than that. And I'll say this, women need to stop making the kids suffer for the actions that the man has done.
True.
Right.
And they need to stop it, because a lot of hurt, pain, rejection, abandonment comes from the fact it's two-sided. One, mama's feeling it, so she wants to throw the kid in the middle. The kid is not the cream in the Oreo cookie. Okay, that's not what that's supposed to be. The kid is not the filler. The kid shouldn't be, the child shouldn't be thrown around to and fro because of the dysfunction of y'all relationship. So it hurts me when women are in so much pain and they're so prideful and they don't want to admit the pain and the hurt that they've been through. So they use the child like, oh, well, no, you can't see her. And it's like, no, that's not fair, because that child grows up. That child is going to want to know where she came from. She's going to see some things that came from mama and be like, okay, that's mama, but what about daddy's side of the family? Because da, 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 da. And I can only speak for that because that was me. Like, I was diagnosed with narcolepsy years ago. I'm like, that didn't come on my mama's side. It must have came on my daddy's side. When I started digging into things of ministry and my call, I know that didn't come from my mama's side. So started doing stuff on my daddy's side and figured out evangelists, bishops, pastors, apostles, all that on my daddy's side. So kids grow up. They want to know. They want answers. And now this day and age, oh, they ain't playing. They really want answers. They ain't hearing that shucking and jiving. You better come with the come on. And you better come on immediately. Not no no, they want it right then and there. And you better come clean. Because that's what they need to know.
Yeah. And some parents feel like they are, looking out for their kids by not saying anything. Like, I'm sheltering you from the truth. Well, you can't cover it up. You can't hide it. It's there. Just because you won't acknowledge it doesn't mean it goes away. And like you said, that child does grow up and want to know, okay, what about this part of me? What about this side? I never really got to experience, never heard anything about it. Or if I did, it was all bad. But, it's still a part of you just wants to know for yourself because it's a part of you. Who wouldn't want to know? You know what I mean?
Clarity thing.
So,
yeah.
And a lot of parents, we got to understand, like, our parents were us at one point. So they were in these relationships and, they got hurt and everything happened, what have you. They dealt with it in their own way, not really considering how it would affect the child. So they are having a hard enough time dealing with their own emotions about the situation to where they didn't even stop and think. It's just like, okay, well, I'll keep you away from that. Or I'll let you go here, a certain amount of time. You can visit for summers, but, and never really have those discussions or conversations about what really happened.
Right.
That you feel like you're doing your kid a favor by not being honest when really you're just,
more drama.
Make it create more confusion, more drama, more resentment. It's just like, okay, why won't you tell me? And kids have questions. Where do babies come from? Because they're curious. They want to know. So they want to know, okay, where is my dad? What happened? Why didn't he come around? Why didn't you guys stay together? That type of thing. And they have questions, but the parents don't have the answers. Some kids have to ask, who is my father? They don't know. You know what I mean? So it creates a hole and a void in them that has to be filled. They grow and they still want to know. And it's the parents' responsibility to kind of give them what they can in that sense to kind of help, because it's not fair. No. If you grew up as a parent without your father, you know how it feels. So in order for you to carry out that same hurt with your own child, it's not fair.
Not at all. Not at all. And you gonna want to know these answers. And see, that's how I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and I said, eventually, she's gonna want to know some stuff. He's raising his wife's daughter, and I said, there's some things you ain't gonna be able to answer, and it's okay. However, be prepared when she come asking these questions. And so, they were like, well, I'm like, no. And I was like, there's a point in our lives where the switch goes on and we're like, boop, okay, hold on. 2 + 2 no longer equals 4. 2 + 2 = 6 divided by 59 times pi.
It doesn't make sense, right?
And they gonna want answers. And so, I only say that because I remember, going through that. Heck, I started finding my siblings on Facebook. Literally, back in 2011, I remember my dad saying, oh, your sister's name is this in a jail letter and this and this. And I literally started digging. And that's how I started uncovering some of the stuff. So, I mean, there comes that aha moment when you're like, no, it's time. I'm ready now. And you're going to want to know exactly what you need to know. So it answers your questions because I'm the one who's like, but why? But why? And I've been like that since the age of 3. And I'm 38 and still saying, but why?
Yeah.
So, kids grow up and they want some answers, and we need to be able to provide them with those answers. And so just really.
But let me also say this real quick.
No, you couldn't.
Don't be alarmed if you don't get the answers that you're wanting.
Ooh,
because at the end of the day, I mean, yeah, I have both my parents still, but they refuse. One is Christian bound, pastor, priest, and all this other good stuff. It makes me look at the whole religion bit kind of shady. And then another part of it is where the other one's not so biblical or anything like that, but the other person is just like, I'm sorry, I just can't give you that information. That was so long ago. That was an answer I got yesterday via my mama. But I was like, really? I was like, you can't tell me anything about age 5, nothing. But you remember all these other little tidbits, but you can't remember nothing else. And honestly, it's like, okay, you know what? That just lets me know. It's like, okay, well, just because I didn't get the answer that clarified X, Y, and Z doesn't mean that you can't have that internal self-talk, because the universe, God, Christ, whomever that you believe in, is definitely going to answer those questions for you. Okay. Yeah. So don't be so down. Don't be down on yourself. Takara always tells me, give myself grace. I'm still learning. But don't be so down on yourself when you don't get the answer right then and there, because yes, we want answers, and little kids, toddlers, teenagers probably won't get that right away. But there's a different facet. There's a different way to go about it. And it's just like, well, just listen to, just take the time out to meditate. Take the time out to be still. Take the time out to be quiet.
Come on.
Be patient. And I kid you not, the universe will always, always tell you the answer. It will always redirect you. It will always put you where you need to be so that you can get the answer. And it may not even come from your family. It may come from a complete stranger. Because I've definitely had those revelations where it's just like, I meet somebody in a grocery store and I'm talking and, I'm like, oh, you like those two? I thought I was the only one. And then all of a sudden this conversation starts, and then they tell you something that you had no idea you even knew. So definitely keep those ears open, and don't be discouraged if you don't get, what you want right then and there, because that's not life. Life is not fair. Okay. Life is not fair. Life is not fair. It will show you one thing and then take it away if you're not ready. Okay. Say, oh, she's not ready. Okay. Let me go over here.
Woo!
Right.
Can I say one thing before we go forward? One thing, we have to understand that the way our parents was raised up is different how we came up. Yes. And you got to understand, generations is different ways how we were raised up. Yeah. First of all, when it comes to our parents and we want to know something, because there's the times I ask my mama something and it might not, she want to talk at that time. We have to realize it's a healing process. So they have to heal in the inner them in order to be comfortable to talk. But some of them don't realize that they have a problem. They don't look at it as pressure or anxiety, or they just don't want to deal with it at the time. So we have to learn that, okay, she might not going to give me what I want at the time, even though I want to know. But we have to realize that we have to stay humble in ourselves.
Yeah. And give them the same grace.
We're not going to, the way we was raised up, even though they raised us, somebody else might help raise us, or how we see stuff now, and we're still learning as adults. But we have to learn that people that's older than us, our parents or our grandparents, the way they perceive things back then, they just did with the best way they knew how. They didn't know how to heal then. Even though some of us, I come from a Christian background as well, they went to church for everything. True indeed. But you have to know how to heal yourself and your inner you in order to heal on the outer you.
Yes,
you cannot be delivered unless you're going to heal in the inside. In order to be delivered, you have to heal. And you have to admit that you have a problem. You have to admit that it might be mental health. And some people don't want to admit, oh, I have a mental health problem, or I'm in depression. I don't want to talk about that. We got to talk about it, because
we need to
go forward unless you go forward, unless we go together as forward. Because if you're not going to go forward, I'm going to leave you behind. But I'm going to get my comfort in myself, and I'm going to have close this door because it's like an open door. It's a
Revolving.
problem that we didn't solve.
Revolve.
It's gonna
Yep.
be revolving over and over. So if you want to stay stuck, you go ahead and stay stuck. Because I'm gonna push forward and I'm gonna keep on going forward. And that's
That's
okay.
right.
You let, but right now we're gonna put you as a still stand since you don't want to go forward. So let me
Yep.
go
Right.
forward for both of us. That's how I look at it. Oh my
Yep.
God, boy, this thing here are
This
crucial.
is a
And I
never
know we
ending
have,
topic.
This is another
yeah,
show.
this is
Absolutely.
another segment. We need to
Absolutely.
do it again, honey.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
We may have to come back. We may have to touch back on that.
Look, these men are ready to hop in. They like, come on, put me in the
Come
game.
on, let them in. Let them in.
Yes.
Like behind the scenes, I can see them. They're like, "Ooh, come on, that's good. Yes. So let me bring these amazing, epic men to the stage, to the platform. We got Billy Montgomery. He is an educator at Roosevelt University here in Chi City. All things communication, journalism, and my photographer, one of two. He's amazing. Ain't you? Oh, he's dope. He's dope. And then I have Brian Street, who's a brother to all of us. Tanisha, welcome to the family. Isha and Liz, we know Brian from another mother. So you now in the family as well. Brian Street is an educator. He's all things influencer. So I'm really excited to have both of them here. I'm about to bring them in right now. Brothers, how are y'all?
Yo, man, I am blessed. I'm just over here with goosebumps listening to y'all,
Why?
especially just this last just little bit that we heard just now, because it's so real. It is so real. So many people get stuck and they won't be vulnerable enough to let it be known that they're stuck. And when you ain't opening your mouth to let it be known, you ain't gonna heal.
That's
So
right.
Right.
I really respect
Absolutely.
what I was hearing there.
Thank you. So we're excited. There's a lot going on in America today. So we wanted to make sure to bring some amazing epic men to the platform to be able to share their experiences and what it's like being a dad, a Black dad in America during all these times that we're going through. So not sure who wants to go first. Billy, I'll pick on Billy. Now, Billy is a parent to a lot of people. You know, he's birthed his
I
own
am.
kids. Yeah, you are. Your kids, your students, they look up to
Oh,
you.
okay. I got you.
Yeah, they look up to you.
I thought you knew something I didn't know. I'm like, wait a minute.
I definitely wouldn't air all your business on a platform like
Okay.
that. I respect you more than that. Please know that. But just being able to be an influencer and an educator, the two of you guys, which I didn't realize that until after I asked y'all both to be on the platform. Like, wow, they're both educators. So this should be interesting too, just because what you guys share, your wisdom coming from the educational perspective and also from the parenting perspective, especially you, Brian. You bring a different spin to this conversation, which we'll hold on for later. So, Billy, share something that has been like maybe a struggle since all this has, been going on with Black Lives Matter movement, like really evolving and changing lives all over the world. So what are some of your perspectives on what's going on, and how does that affect fathering for you?
Well, first of all, let me second what Brian said. I think just listening to you ladies talk about the issues, particularly the whole thing about moving forward and learning when to let go. A while back, I wrote an essay about the gift of release and how important it is to know how to do that. In that same vein, I think we need to release some of the myths that are concerning or surrounding this whole issue around Black fathers. The reality is the Center for Disease Control has statistics that show that when given opportunity, and that can be, I know, relative, but when given opportunity, Black men tend to stay with their children, much more involved in their children's lives than any other race, including white men. But you don't hear that because the narrative is always, the way it is. I think the current movement has indeed been something that we can be proud of in some sense because there's an awareness. But as a student of history, I can say that I've seen this movie before and I kind of know how it ends. And that I know one thing, that if we don't stay vigilant, we're going to see things kind of go back. All you got to do is look at Reconstruction period. Once we were freed, some people argue 1863, some people argue 1865. There was a 12-year period where Black families were together and they were building and they were growing and they were developing under the Reconstruction period. They had security from the government. They had access. They had freedmen's bureaus. They had banks built. I mean, just so much prosperity was actually coming out of slavery. And you would think, how can you do this when you're talking about people who couldn't read before and who could not function, quote unquote, as human beings? And yet something happened after that. And that was things were stripped away. And, we've had a history of building and then people would come and tear it up and things of that nature. What happens with America, just putting in the context of what the question was, America reminds me of a bad kid. You have to stay on top of her. Stay on top of him, however you want to describe it. And if you don't, what happens is, there'll be a little guilt, there'll be a little remorse, you'll get some concessions, and then we get complacent. And as we get complacent, things tend to drift off a little bit, and then we find ourselves in another George Floyd moment or another Trayvon Martin moment. And at this point, I'm at my age, I'm tired of moments. I want movements. I'm not impressed by symbolism at all. I don't care how many times they talk about changing Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's, everything like that. That's all symbolic. I want stock in Quaker Oats. I want to move this thing beyond just the symbolism that makes people feel guilt free because they feel like they can throw money at our problems. We're bigger and better than that.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. Well, that's been Vault Talks Women Share. I think he just threw it all at us in one smack. Jeez.
Yeah, that he made some great points. Some very relevant points about how they approach the situation on a superficial surface level. And they think that, okay, because we take away these images or we put up these quotes and say we support, certain things, it makes it okay. But what are you really doing? Just like he said, we don't want the moments. We don't want the little quotes. We want you to take action.
Yeah,
we want
absolutely.
The movement behind what it is that you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's incumbent upon us because we have to stay on top of them. And what happens is we get excited. Like yesterday, I saw a lot of marches. I didn't participate in yesterday's march, but I was in one earlier in the week. And, everybody's like, man, we achieved so much. And I had to ask myself when I was going home, what did we achieve? Except by showing up, and I'm not dissing anything like that. We have to show ourselves. We have to be present in order to, let them know, hey, you're going to have some discomfort too. If we're going to be uncomfortable, you're going to feel the discomfort. I get that part. But my part is taking it to the next level. Let's not be impressed when Starbucks says, hey, we're going to put so much money in the United Negro College Fund. How about setting up some franchisees in neighborhoods that are struggling?
Exactly.
How about stock options and things of that nature? And if we're not talking about that, then again, like I said, I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends.
I love that. Yeah. And so with being a father, what are some of the conversations that are taking place with you and your kids around what's going on right now?
Well, my one child, seriously, I have one biological daughter, but as Takara said, I have many mentees and students who kind of look at me as a father figure, I guess. And mainly a lot of conversations have been around, what's next? We see the movement, we've seen the uprising, if you want to call it that, but what's next? And so I've been engaging them, like, what do you guys think what's next? Like my daughter, she's one of the types where she has a militant side to her, but she also has a very moderate side. So it's interesting to kind of hear her kind of go back and forth with that. And it kind of helps balance me out because, of course, I don't know what most millennials are thinking in terms of, until they express it, of course. Right. but the most of the conversations have been about, okay, where do we go from here? Reminds me of Dr. King's book, do we have chaos, continued chaos, or do we have community at some point? And so those have been most of the conversations around next steps.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Brian, what are some of the conversations you guys are having in your home? Because you have smaller kids.
Yeah, and man, I know you're probably seeing my facial expressions over here. Just listening to Billy just drop it like left and right. And saying, I'm gonna get to answering your question. Something that he mentioned that really jumped out to me. I was watching an interview. I forget what platform the interview was on, but it was Killer Mike, and he was mentioning how he and T.I. had a conversation with I'm drawing a blank
Candace
They had a
Owens.
with Dick Gregory. No, they had a
Oh,
conversation with Dick Gregory, and they were talking about these protests. They were talking about marches, and Dick Gregory using his choice words. What the heck y'all going out there marching and protesting for? We've been doing this for 50 plus years. Ain't nothing changed. Why y'all doing the same thing? So you're saying you've seen the story before, you read the story before, and that's what I'm working on right now. I'm working on, how they throw up hashtag be the change. What change are you being?
Yeah.
You are doing the same that you've been doing, asking for permission from the oppressor to treat you a certain way. Stop asking, go create. So I'm in the process of creating and telling my children how to create, and not just telling them, but being the example of that. So one thing that I do with my kids is I started them at a young age to understand the importance of investing, to understand the importance of ownership, understand the importance of when you feel passionate about something that needs to be done, but maybe someone who's your overseer or your teacher or whatever, they don't see it through your lens. You do it. You got my back. I got your back. You do it, and you can apologize later with me beside you, because I know that you're doing it for the right reason. So that's what I have to teach and pour into my kids. I had an incident about a year or so back. I was driving down the road with my daughter, and we heard police sirens. And she was like, "Daddy, hurry up. It's the police." I'm like, "Why?" She said, "The police is the bad man." I'm like, where did you hear that at?
Wow.
Are being internalizing this at a young age that the police is the bad person. But we have to come in and educate them. Oh, they're not the bad people. Things happen sometimes that some of them come out being the bad person, but
Right.
police in general is not bad. They're meant to protect us. So educating them at a young age on what the truth is, letting them know. And as an educator yourself, Mr. Billy, I'm sure that you probably go through this as well, is helping individuals learn that what you learn in school in our traditional public school system is watered down. It is not the whole. And typically, it's a semblance of the opposite of the truth because it's written by the victor, and our people are victors for much of time period. So we come up viewing ourselves through the lens of how we used to be slaves. We're trying to work for this. We don't understand that before we were slaves, we were kings and queens.
That's right.
We were the creators of what is. So we have to kind of reverse that narrative and help our people understand, you know what? We built this. We were brought from our motherland. We built this, and we were told that we are not human enough to own this. So we have to realize, you know what? We already own it in a certain sense. We just need to figure out how we can create our own little systems here and there to where we grab and we take and we establish true ownership so that we can depend on ourselves. But we can circulate that dollar in the Black community more than, what is it, like 6 minutes, 6 hours? And then it's like 21 days in the Jewish community. We got to change that narrative, but we can't go out, protest, march, and ask for that change. We got to be that change.
Absolutely.
And that's powerful. I mean, it's super powerful. Just to, first of all, to hear your guys' perspectives on, and you guys are saying the same thing. And a lot of people feel that, I'm out here protesting, I'm making a change, but you guys are right. And if you really think about it, history repeats itself, because I've been saying it for years. History repeats itself. And I'm sure, a lot of the people who are viewing this have said the same thing. And here we are. I feel like we're back in the 60s again. I feel like we're back in the Bull Connor days, back in Birmingham and back in Montgomery, back in Selma, and back in all these places, fighting for our rights all over again. And it's great to see that people are being awakened to the movement. I was out last night and I was having a conversation with this young Caucasian gentleman, and he was 22. He didn't get it. It flew right over his head. What Black lives why does it matter? What is discrimination? What is racism? Why are people protesting? What is this all about? And I was sitting there educating him. And he was like, well, I still don't get it. And so it was to the point where like, all right, I'm clearly not the one to get you to get it. I'm gonna plant the seed, somebody else gonna water, and you're gonna get it one of these days up through here. But just to be able to have the conversation made me realize that some people really just don't get why we're doing what we're doing. And so, you know, it's not so something to get angry about. It's just there's a lack of ignorance out here. And so when we throw that word of ignorance, we think about it in a negative way. And it's just people need to be properly educated on why the Black community is, you know, I don't like to use the word uproar, but we're changing our stance and we are really being more vocal around what's going on. Now, you get some people who get it very clearly. Now, same setting I was in last night. This young lady, mind you, I was in a setting where I didn't know anybody but one person, the person I came with. And so we're sitting and having these conversations, and another Caucasian lady, she got it because her significant other is a Samoan and African American. So she got it like this. And she was trying to educate him to understand this is why Black people feel the way that they feel in America right now. And it blessed my soul because I was like, people really do get it. In the same setting, there's this one guy who's like, I don't get it. And she's like, well, here's why. She was just basically saying from a Caucasian standpoint, we don't have the right to understand the feelings and emotions that they're going through because we're not them. She's like, all we can do is support. And that's what we need to do. I was like, wow, very impressive. But in the same setting. So it's just a matter of time. Will people get it? Yeah. Will we ever be, you know, seen as equal? In my opinion, no. I don't ever see that happening. At least not in my lifetime.
Well, one of the things that I'm big on is, and I like words. I'm not looking for equality. I'm looking for equity. And what I mean by that is, I think that's been part of the issue that one of the reasons why we keep going around the mulberry bush is we keep saying we're trying to be equal to them. We're already equal, in some cases superior, you know, so we don't even have to, as Brian said, you can't come from being a king and a queen and not consider yourself superior, you know what I mean? Or, you know, things of that nature. But going back to what you just said, the reality is they're miseducated too. You know, a lot of them don't even know their own history. Right. And I was having a conversation with a kid, you know, we were talking about Ireland, and he was impressed that I even knew about it. I'm like, dude, I'm not just a student of my own culture. I'm a student of the world, right? But it's rooted in my lens, obviously. But the reality is I like history, period. I was that nerd in high school that loved taking early world history and modern world history and all that kind of stuff. So I go beyond American history. And I think part of the issue is that because they have boxed us into civil rights so much, we don't look at this as a human rights struggle. And the reality is, and Malcolm X said it, Dr. King was even leaning toward the end of his life when he was addressing the Vietnam and how you had poor Blacks and poor whites going to fight poor Vietnamese. You know, when we look at the struggles even in the 80s with apartheid and things of that nature, where you have a majority being controlled by a minority, you know, in terms of that, but mostly because of the militarization of South Africa and things of that nature. We have gone through a lot in terms of our world perspective. And I think sometimes because they've locked us into looking at things from, okay, those marches in the civil rights movement and, you know, the different things that we've had in the most recent situation, it kind of disconnects us. But the one thing I do like about what's happening right now is that the world is not only watching, but the world is participating. This is the first time in history of our struggle where we've had not only all 50 states, and we're talking about the 48 states plus the ones that are not contiguous. So imagine Alaskans and Hawaiians protesting. This is the first time we've ever had that. And this is the first time we've ever had this kind of world support as well. So I think things are kind of hitting differently this time because the racism and oppression and fascism that's going on across the world, if you talk to people who live in different countries, we're not just the only ones getting it over here. And so I think part of what we have to do is say, okay, we're dealing with this now, but how can we broaden this so we can continue to have allies across the world, and that gives us that equity part that I'm talking about, not just being equal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think across a lot of cultures, we are seen as less than. It's not just the white community. If you cross over to China, they don't like or respect us. Like in a lot of different countries and cultures, we are seen as that. And that's how we have been portrayed for a long time now. What I heard a guy say on a video is just like, okay, this is our fight too. He was of probably Hispanic descent, I think. And it was at one point we were not even allowed, and still today they're trying to keep them out, but they look at themselves like, we are part of this, we are part of the minority, we have been discriminated against and that type of thing. So had it not been for the Immigration Act and that type of thing, we wouldn't even be here. So we can't just sit aside and not say anything and just like, okay, this is a black and white issue. It's bigger than that. And that's what I think a lot of people need to really understand. Just like you said, there's a lot of things going on across the world and we hear about it and, it's just a sad story. But now that we have people really protesting and standing up for us and what we're dealing with here in America, it really says a lot. Because we hear about the Fidel Castro and the thing that happened in France and, they're killing these people for their religions and that type of thing. But what did we do? We made a hashtag, we made a, filter for it and just say, okay, we're supporting. But now when it's us and we're out in the forefront, we have people actually taking action and protesting and, looting, graffitiing, rioting, whatever. They're making noise about what's going on here for the Black community. But my stance on it is that we have to, within ourselves, within our own community, do what we're asking other people to do. Like you said, we don't want equality. We're asking you to validate us. But we don't validate ourselves. We don't respect ourselves in our own community. We don't look at ourselves as, who we truly are. Like Brian said, we were kings and queens at some point. We don't even know that about ourselves. A lot of us don't even know our own history. So we are looking for other people to do certain things, and that's why they can coax us with little quotes and we're gonna do this and Starbucks says such and such or whatever, you know what I mean, and think it'll be okay. They'll put a band-aid on it and we're supposed to be happy with what they give us and the little things that they do. And some of us are satisfied. We are impressed. We are pleased by, oh, look at this. They said this. They said that, but they're not doing anything. And nothing is going to change.
Wow.
Yeah. And add one more thing as far as what's happening right now, because in my study, my background in psychology and social work, I really focus on cognitive behavioral methods. So helping people understand that your actions or what you manifest is going to come from the things that start as a thought in your mind. And a lot of us we're running off of subconscious thoughts, and our subconscious has those things in our mind that happened back in the day. Okay, whenever something bad in race relations happened, they march, they protest. So that's all that we know to do. But we have to change that and realize, you know what? Instead of the social equality that they were asking for, we need to be demanding and creating economic equity. We need to be we're on the same economic plane, because that's when change happens. When it hits their pocketbooks, happens. You look at some of the things that have happened here recently, as far as the shutdowns and everything. When they saw that their money was getting hurt, oh, you essential workers, was typically, or people of color, you essential workers, y'all need to go back to work so that we can be all right. That shows you right there. They can't survive without us. So helping us be the ones that are becoming those executives, becoming those owners, to where, you know what? Yes, I have people who are essential workers, but they're working for me. They're working within our community. We are being the job creators instead of the ones out there going out being the consumers, looking and asking for someone else to give us a job. And my whole my whole academic journey in life is to be that academic that really pushes job creation in our community. Not necessarily going out to be that person be hired by someone else. I'm not saying that there's anything bad in that, but pushing more of an emphasis on us becoming the creators, us becoming the owners, so that we can create our own economic systems to where we have the buy-in power to get certain politicians in office that actually are going to properly represent us, to get certain people in public offices like the judges, like the police station, who are going to actually judge and police because they understand the things that our community goes through. To have radio stations, get it, girl, to have radio stations and media that actually we are the owners of, so we don't only tell the stories about the young black man that got gunned down because he was trying to steal X, Y, and Z, but we tell the stories about this new young business owner from the black community that started this innovative approach to doing whatever. We're putting those stories in, and then eventually we can really impact the education system because we are actually being the example. We're actually the person who is being studied all throughout those other levels. So that's the space that I'm in. I would say check out some of the recent interviews of Dr. Claude Anderson. He was interviewed on The Breakfast Club not too long ago, and he mentioned the black community and how there's no longer an actual black community in the U.S. where we have in all of those spaces, where we have the media. We're the top media person in town. We're the top. We have all the judges. We have to get to where we have someone of power in each of those areas, and that's where we can really start to reclaim the community or build our own community.
Yeah, I agree on that, Brian. Building our own community, because it really just starts from, home. And if we can really start to bring that in and bring that and make that a cultural difference on that end and make it substantial, where we own everything on this block. We are all integrated. We're all connected. I think that that's really going to be a defining point for bringing that equality that we are, or not equality, but what we've been talking about as far as that's concerned. So yeah.
And I'm loving the conversation because it's what's going on in these days and times that we're in. If you are not paying attention to what's going on, it's definitely making you pay attention to what's going on. It's not something that you can ignore. It's all around you. If you really pay attention to what's going on, we don't hear about COVID numbers anymore. We're not hearing about that in the media. We're hearing about rioting. We're hearing about all these things that are going on within America. You go to Netflix, and this blew my mind. I was, doing something last week. And so for me, when I'm crafting, I like to watch a movie that I've already seen, so I really don't have to pay attention. It's just background noise. Well, The Help. Now think about when The Help was when it came out back in 2011, somewhere around there. It was one of Netflix top 10 movies that was being played this month. So Netflix literally has a bunch of, as soon as you log into your Netflix account, before you can see anything else that's going on, it literally has a section for African Americans and what's going on right now, different documentaries, different things of that nature, to bring awareness of what's going on, which I think is very strategic for so many reasons, because a lot of people don't have cable. They have Netflix, they have Hulu. So this is an opportunity to self-educate yourself during these times so you can properly stand on a firm foundation and know what you're marching for, what you're really wanting to promote change in. And both of you guys said it, Billy and Brian. It's one thing to talk about change, but action, literally creates reaction. So what are you doing about what you're saying and what you're passionate about? And for me, this is just me, shoot the messenger if you decide to. I'm not going to go out there and protest because, again, back to history, what is it going to do? How is it going to bring the change that we really want to see? The change starts, first of all, with us, right, individually, and then spreading our message, or even deciding to spread that message and be very intentional about it and being that change and actually doing something. Stop running your mouth. Do something about it, and understanding that how contagious the power of decision can really be.
I just want to piggyback on, maybe because all of us is in different areas, different locations, different states. For me, I'm in Florida, and It's a lot going on. And yes, it's true. We don't hear too much about COVID-19 on the news. But as for Miami, Florida, that's a different story. Even though our people are out here protesting, getting together, numbers wise, this is what we look like in Dade County. We went from 2,000 to 83,000 people that's cases in COVID-19 in Broward in Dade County alone. So that's like Miami, Florida, and Fort Lauderdale alone. So no, they're not talking about it, but it's happening. It's serious.
Mhm.
Second dose that's going around. And at the end of the day, they know what they was doing when they was opening up the businesses. Yeah, because they was missing the money. Because we are the consumers. True indeed. But you're right. Billy said one thing that stuck with me. We have to learn to get and collaborate together, not think about us, just I. We have to think about we and learn to
Mm,
collaborate with each
that's
other
right.
so all in our community can make money together. We
Yeah.
have to learn to stop hating one another and think, oh, I'm better than this person. We have to come to the point that it is a shift that's going on right now. It's a reflection to us. And some people are asleep. They need to wake up
Yeah.
because they're not understanding that it's not about or what they can give us or what they can do. It's what we can do as together, as our people. And it's a lot of
Mhm.
young people out here that's very powerful. And the millennials, we're taking over. I feel like I'm the end of the millennials, sure indeed, but not for long, because I'm knocking on 41. But why I still consider myself as a millennial, because people can relate to me, because I'm relatable, because I done been out there in the street, I done been in the game that I've been on, and I changed my life, sure indeed, because it was my time. But what we need to realize in our world today, we're in a shift. And if people
Mhm.
don't wake up and realize what's going on, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
You're gonna be left behind. You're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
be left
man.
there. And we have to learn that stop being ignorant. Stop condoning what they doing it so we can react. This is why they doing certain things. Right
Yeah.
now in Florida, we're losing our young boys, our young sons. They're lynching us down here in Florida. I don't know about anybody else, but it's hurting me right now, sis, because they're lynching our boys in Florida. West Palm Beach, they hung a 17-year-old,
Wow.
kidnapped him. Yesterday, again, watching the news
California
is
too.
hurtful because this boy worked for FedEx. A white man stopped and called him a nigga. I his name, God forgive me for standing on loud, but Jesus. He called him out his name and spit in his face. To watch this boy on live and cry because he could not do nothing about it. He didn't even know how to react because he didn't come from back then. We don't know what our people, what my daddy done went through, but my daddy tell us the stories. But to see our youth go through so much and it feel like we're helpless, we can't do nothing. Yes, we can do something. Stop being ignorant and get together and fight. It
Yeah.
don't have to be with your fists all the time. Come together and get in
Mhm.
unity of prayer because that's part of it too. I hate to say it too, and I come in ministry part, but some of our pastors, prophets, prophetess, they think about the money for themselves. They're not even thinking about our
Mhm.
community or what's really going on. And it's sad to say that you looking what you can get, but what can you give?
Yeah.
We crying.
Yeah.
Our youth is crying right now. What can we give our youth right now? How can we teach them to fight? What are you really mentoring?
Yeah.
What are you really giving them? Are you just showing them how to overlook things? It's a cycle. Here we go again. It's a cycle. What are we really teaching our youth? What are we going to do? Stop complaining about the problem and be the problem.
That's good.
That's
That's
just how I feel, you guys. And I couldn't just sit here no more because God was like, you gotta say it. Just say it, Tanisha. Because we hurting down here in Florida. I don't know about nobody else. And I don't know how people look at things, but we hurting down here for real. And I just look at it's bigger than us. It's really bigger than us. And until we can understand the real reason, like why we going through the shift and what's really going on, then our people gonna always be asleep.
Yep.
Hmm.
And I'm not just talking about our people, I'm talking about people as a world. Because my, my,
Hmm.
my background, I got white, I got Indian, I got Jamaican, I got Bahamian. We all messed up. My family in New York, we have white, we got a Caucasian in our family too. So what we really fighting for? We fighting
Mhm.
our own blood. Because if you look at it, if you go down the line, we all mixed up with something. So
Yeah.
how can you say it's just this one race and that one race? No, that's what the Caucasians want you to think. It ain't in my bloodstream. Okay, thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. Okay, I'm gonna be obedient. But what I'm saying is, wake up. You cannot say, "Oh, this just what going on." We don't know what our background really is. How many people gonna go back and find out what your roots really came from? What's mixed up in our roots? Because if you look at it, you can't be negative like the rest of the people in the world. We all mixed up some way, somehow. So we all related.
Yep.
Right.
Woo!
Yeah,
Like,
you know,
when I get talking, I be
Yep.
like,
no,
go on go mode. Oh my God.
You're absolutely right. And I saw a video of a girl, and she did her lineage DNA or whatever, and she was so hurt to find out that she had Caucasian so deep within her lineage. And it's just like, it goes beyond color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we are dealing with now is seen as a white black thing.
Yeah.
But those of us who are darker skinned and melanated, we have a complex within our own community that we
Yeah.
haven't faced yet. So I keep going to the fact that we look outside of us for people to fix us, to help us. Yes, the things that we deal with was because of what they did to us, but it's our responsibility to heal ourselves so that we can see past the color, and really work together, because it's not about that. It's not about black, but within us, within the melanated community, we have shamed those who were darker
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus those who were lighter. And you are lighter because of that other, the Caucasian or whatever, because we've all mixed and mingled back in the day. So it's in us,
Come on.
regardless of whether you wanted to acknowledge it or not. No one person is better than the other, but it's a mindset. We have this complex that tears us down within ourselves.
Yep.
So in order to, like she's right, in order to heal what's going on, we have to change our minds
Right.
when it comes to the human experience, period.
Yeah.
Because color has nothing to do with it.
Nope. Nope.
Man,
On the
Shakar,
forefront
how long do
of
we have?
everything. Like,
Come on, Brian. I know.
I'm
Look, I
telling
know
you.
Brian and Billy are like, man, I can go on for. I feel y'all. Go ahead, Brian.
Man,
yeah.
like, just reiterating on a few things that I just heard. You know what I can't what's the name? Tamisha? No, Tanisha. Man, I used to live in Miami. I lived down there from 2012 to 2013, and that is what put me on the mission I'm on right now, because I worked in the child welfare system, and I saw how whenever they saw these black and brown kids aging out the system, they were putting nothing in place to help with that transition. You go out there and kill yourself up if you want to. You go out there,
Mm-hmm.
have some, put them into the system so we can make some more money if you want to. You go out there, get up in the gangs and get put in the prison system so we can make more money if you want to. They didn't care about putting certain systems, certain programs, certain services together to make sure that they made a successful transition to become a successful adult in their space. And I couldn't sit there and be a worker in that hive any longer. So I had to leave. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back home and I'm going to build up leaders that can train these young people to not sit back and say, yes, it's such and such fault. It's such and such fault. It's such and such fault. You know what? It might be their fault, but it's your responsibility to be the change.
Yes. Yes.
I think Will Smith spoke on it. He said, it's not your fault that there was slavery back in the day. It's not your fault that your parents were treated such and such way in the civil rights movement. It's not your fault, but it's dang sure your responsibility to figure out what can I do today to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that my kids don't have to go through the exact same thing that I go through. And I forget who mentioned it, but yeah, you did as well, Tanisha, like how some of the parents are training us, just got to be disobedient. I mean, be obedient. Like, don't say nothing back. Don't react. That's because that's how they had to be back in the day.
Right.
They couldn't respond. They got beat. And then there was nothing to do about it. So we have to twist that narrative. No, you don't have to sit there and just take it. You may have to, for that moment, you know what? I'm not going to react. But as soon as I get back with my people, we're going to respond. We're going to figure out how to strategically respond so that we can bring about sustainable change. So many people you see today, and a lot of them have died off already. You see them today, and they're posting such and such on social media because they're being emotionally impulsive. They're reacting because of what their emotions are currently driving them to do based off of what they're seeing. But as soon as things go back to normal in their life, that's out of sight, out of mind. So
Right.
what are you doing that is going to create that sustainability? When I come back 10 months from now and look back at your social media, look back at your day-to-day activity, what are you doing now? So logically put something in action, or start putting something in action that you can sustain. Don't just do something because you're feeling it, because it's popular to do right now. This hashtag is trending. Why don't I put it on my page too? I'll get more attention. People will think that I'm woke. No, like, people are gonna find out that you're a fraud, because they're gonna see when you go back to doing what you were doing. So it's it's uncanny that I'm looking at a fence right now on the other side of where we live. Don't be on the fence. Be on one side or the other, but don't be on the fence for me. Because if you're on the fence, you might as well be on the other side, because I don't want you.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
Wow.
That's right.
Billy, you quiet. I know you got something to say.
Oh, I didn't know how much longer time. I didn't want to dominate the time. You know, man, this is good. I've just been sitting back. You know, I'm pretty sure Brian can agree. One thing about being an educator, you can be an instructor, but you also are a learner. You know what I mean? It's like forever learning. So I'm just absorbing information. I'll go back on a couple of things. You know, the reality is how we look at race today wasn't even a thing before the Spanish Inquisition. For anybody who doesn't know about that, that's a good study to check out how this whole racial thing started. And it's interesting because it was tied around religion. And it's interesting how over the years, religion and race kind of intersect some kind of way and cause a lot of issues. But that's just something that, you know, a side note. I would say, going back to what I was mentioning before, we are that change that we're looking for. You know, the reality is we have to put the work in. Don't get me wrong, marching, protesting, all that's important because it brings awareness. But the reality is, even Dr. King at some point said, okay, we can protest. I think it was, trying to remember, it was 4 steps. I think it was confrontation, demonstration, negotiation, and then reconciliation. You know, that was the whole thing in terms of the whole civil rights movement. We had to confront the issue, but at some point we know we're living together unless we're going to annihilate each other. So how do we reconcile? And reconciliation is not about being equal. It's about the equity part. An example of this is, I love the fact that what Brian just said about sustainability, this is so critical. And this is one of the reasons why we continue to argue, as Takara said, 50 years later, the same things. If you look back at the 1963 I Have a Dream speech in the March on Washington, they were fighting for fair housing, better education, economic parity. What are we talking about right now? The same things, basically, right? And part of it is because they threw a little bit, okay, we're going to have a fair housing act. We're going to let you move from a smaller ghetto to a larger ghetto. And we're going to move into the suburbs and let you have a little bit of piece of this, that, and the other. So you can feel, quote unquote, equal. But the equity part is you have to pay higher mortgages. You have to qualify differently in terms of purchasing a home. You have to go through different hoops when you get in corporate America that they don't have to go through. And so at some point, we have to get to the reality of this. They had a 381-day boycott in Montgomery, Alabama, when they boycotted back in 1955 and 56 for the bus boycott. I love that momentum. I love the discipline. They had to go through a lot of things when they did that. But it hit me, I was just comparing, because I'm always doing this thing with history. I was like, man, you know what would have been dope? They literally brought the Montgomery bus company down to its knees. What a great negotiation strategy if they could have went to them and said, let's buy the bus company. You see what I'm saying? We didn't already prove that our ridership is so great that we can stop the buses from even running. They were begging Black people to get on the buses. They would go to stop there. You sure you don't want to ride? You know, and yet we missed the opportunity, because I really feel like that would have been the equity part. We were just trying to be equal and sit next to white people on the bus, or make sure that we can sit in the front side and things of that nature. Now that's cool. But the powerful piece is going back to what Brian was talking about. What can we do beyond the symbolism? What can we do beyond the protest part? And I think that's where we're missing it. And that's why we continue to go around these cycles. We have to come back home. as my sister said about being down there in Dade and Broward County, I was down there in 2017 doing some work, and I was really interesting. It was really interesting because one of the young men I met down here, he said, "Hey man, we're gonna show you how we do it down here in Dade County." And I was like, man, I watch news. I know how y'all get down in Dade County. So you ain't got to tell me that, but it's cool. But the point is, I began to see something really interesting because I went over to where the Florida Marlins stadium is with the baseball team. And I couldn't believe that it was surrounded by such blight. And I said, wow, guess what? In Chicago, you can go to Comiskey Park or US Cellular or whatever they call it now, Wintrust Stadium, and it's surrounded by such blight. And it's like, how can you have this massive structure that brings in all this wealth, and yet all this blight is all around it, and nobody acts like they know it? It's like a big elephant in the room, and you pretend like it's not there.
Yeah.
Until we start addressing that on a mass level, we don't get the equity part. And that's really what's missing. And that's why I continue to sound like a broken record, because I know we know the answer, but are we willing to put in the work, as Brian said, beyond the hashtags, beyond the marches, beyond the protests? Who's going to organize the committee on their block to start doing some work? I ain't talking about hashtagging and being a keyboard assassin. I'm just saying, who's going to be willing to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to talk to my neighbors and we're going to have a meeting. It could, just one block. That's why I love Jamal Cole so much with one block, my city, my hood, because that's all he did. He just started with just doing one block. And now this guy was able to raise, right after the whole uprising, he was able to raise $1 million to help small businesses rebuild their community, their infrastructures, and put people back to work. That's one person taking one idea to do one thing. And that's where it needs to start. And that's what but that takes work.
Right.
And you're not going to have time to be online posting doing that. You got to be able to say, you know what, let me shut this thing down and get to work.
Absolutely.
Right. But you definitely have to have the mindset and know that you deserve to have those type of things to happen, because if not, you're not going to be dedicated to doing the work in order to get that outcome. Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to put forth the work to see it come to fruition. If you don't think that we can have and own these certain businesses like the ones that we frequent and give our money to, like you said, they could have owned the bus company. We were not thinking of ownership. Like you said, it was good enough for us back then to be equal. That's what we were fighting for. We wanted to just sit beside you on the bus. We didn't see ourselves in the ownership position. So in order for us to kind of take that type of action, we have to know that we deserve a seat at that table, not just a seat on the bus.
Right. I love it. Wow. This has been such a healthy, rich conversation. I hate to end. That just means we're going to have you guys back with a plethora of other people talking about issues like this. What we love now that we are a virtual experience and no longer a radio show, we can talk about these things freely without being censored. So definitely going to have the two of you back with some other amazing individuals that are like-minded, that can carry such a conversation and bring the wealth, the knowledge, and the weight to such a topic. And it's much needed. These are the conversations that need to be on CNN and MSNBC to be able to really understand the power of behind the scenes of these conversations that need to be brought to the forefront, because there's so much power in them, because there's the unity and there's the information that's being shared. And you guys both said something very key. I love the fact that you guys are both educators, because you're coming to us with your education hat on, then also, your education hat off. Being able to share, what's going on in your own world, and then being able to apply it to your wisdom as educators. So I don't know about you ladies that are here, you're the hosts, but we got to have them back. We got to do some more stuff.
We'll love it.
Yeah, I mean, bringing the history into the now is needed. We need to understand, there's power in, making these decisions to talk about these things. They're no longer off the table. There was a time when
Right.
we really couldn't talk about this stuff freely. Now we can. And so utilizing the power of our voice to really get this message into the hands, into the ears of those who really need it the most, to even just bring change and awareness, and to awaken some people. Like we said, Tanisha, there's a lot of people who are asleep. All they're saying is, they're putting up their fists talking about Black Lives Matter and not understanding what we're really saying and the change that we're demanding behind saying Black Lives Matter.
Right.
It's a big deal. And it's amazing to me because, and then we can go, I think I shared this with the girl when we met. I had my Black Lives Matter shirt on, and I'm in an area in the Midwest where there's a lot of Caucasians, and it blew my mind on how many times I got stopped, and they're like, "Where can I get that shirt? I want one." So back in the day, you'd be like, do I really want to go into this neighborhood with this Black Lives Matter shirt on? Nervous about wearing it. And just, now people are approaching me like, hey, I want one. They don't look like me. They don't sound like me. So something is, shifting in the atmosphere, but it's not enough to bring the change that we deserve. So thank you, Brian, Billy, for taking your time out of your busy days. We're excited about having you guys back. We don't know when we're gonna make sure that we do. And happy Father's Day to the both of you guys. I hope you
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Amazing plans. Somebody taking y'all out for dinner or home cooked breakfast in the morning or
brunch.
I like both.
Or axe throwing or whatever y'all gonna do to celebrate as men. Not socks and ties, something else. Acknowledge who you guys are as fathers, and we thank you guys for taking the time to even just be in our platform. We are definitely. Oh wow! Look! Here we go. Yay! Some of our viewers.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Back. Yes. So, well, there it is. The viewers want y'all back. Boom! Y'all are back just like that. So we'll figure it out. But thank you for your time and your energy. Ladies, you guys want to say anything before we end the show?
I enjoyed this segment. I appreciate you, men, and have a wonderful Father's Day this weekend.
Absolutely. Liz?
Absolutely. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And thank you guys for coming on and sharing. It was really good.
We appreciate
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Absolutely. So you guys will be back. We'll figure it out. We'll get your times solidified here in the next couple of weeks. And we'll just take care of yourselves and just continue to do what you guys are doing in your communities and abroad, because I know you guys will have major platforms. Billy, Brian, you guys gotta connect. You guys gotta stay together.
Oh yeah.
Y'all got work to do together. I can see that because I was looking at how Brian was talking and Billy was talking and y'all were vibing. And so I definitely am thankful to even connect the two of you guys together and to be on the platform. No, we thank you. So ladies, we're out. Thank you guys so much. Have a great weekend. Mwah.
All right. Bye-bye.
Everybody enjoy.